Use the microphone. I know it's an inconvenience and an encumbrance. It's better with the palm lights, but we've got this. So let's kick off the first session. Sorry, the first talk of this session. Peter describes himself as a resident of Brisbane and an amateur astronomer, but he's also the broad-based viewpoint. Peter's going to talk about, well, I'll tell you what he's going to talk about because I can't really tell you.
Yeah, the priest is not.
Thank you, Bree. So yes, my name is Peter Allison. Yes, I am an amateur astronomer and president of Brisbane Astronomical Society. But I come here to talk just as an individual. I'm not really representing any organisation. And regardless of what Brisbane City Council might think of me, I actually do support the move to LED street lighting, mainly on environmental grounds, greenhouse gas, energy consumption, etc. However, if we are to move to LED street lighting, I'd like it to be on the basis of the selection of well-designed luminaires. Perhaps those luminaires are not yet invented. I would also like it to be on the basis that the right luminaires have been selected for the right task. And I'd also like it to be on the basis that luminaires are properly installed. These are some issues that we will cover later in the talk. The ultimate outcome I drew from looking at this trial in Brisbane and researching the whole topic of LED streetlights is, and this is not just directed at Brisbane, is I think we need to redefine what is good street lighting. At the moment, I don't think we have a proper definition that will work for us. And I think there's sort of three perspectives that need to be sort of massaged to find a common centre of gravity between the three of them that will work well for us. And the first perspective we need to look at is what's coming out of the Australian standards, in particular 1158.3.1, which is for residential street lighting. At the moment, that standard is pretty much skewed towards just trying to specify what's the minimum level of illumination required for different tasks. Sure, it does touch on some aspects of resident amenity and glare, but it just touches on it. It doesn't go far enough. The other perspective we need to bring in here is the local councils. They're in a difficult position. They don't have, well, lighting, the whole area of lighting engineering is difficult, it's complex, and the skills are rare. And so councils are in a difficult position that they don't have the expertise on staff. They have a lot of legacy infrastructure they're trying to deal with. And so where they tend to end up at the end of trying to bring together a lighting design is just trying to demonstrate that they've complied with the Australian standard. And that seems to be their perspective of, well, we have delivered good street lighting. But I don't think that's a good enough perspective. And then the third aspect that needs to be found balance with is resident amenity. So this is like the forgotten orphan out on the edge of the street lighting discussion that nobody's paying sufficient attention to and is being underfed and ignored. So I think we need to find a better balance between what's happening with standards, what's happening within councils, and the residents of the amenity of we residents that have an expectation of street lighting and have to live under these things. So I live in Brisbane. When this LED street lighting trial came up, I decided I would look at it in detail. So this trial has been going since late 2016. It's been brought together by Brisbane City Council and Energex, the local electricity distributor. The trial is about to end about now. No final report's been published yet. I forgot where I was going to go now. Anyway, just keep going.
It sounded great.
Yeah. Anyway, so as I said, I came to this topic because I have an interest in astronomy. And so initially I thought, well, let's find out about this and see whether it's going to have an impact on my hobby. But when I dived into this topic and started to research in detail, there are bigger issues here, and that is for the residents of not only Brisbane but the cities of Australia. So it's when I recognised that I really started to put a lot of effort into looking at this study and trying to understand better the whole topic of LED street lighting. Now, there's very big and enticing carrot dangled in front of them with LED street lighting. So here they have, or they're fed the ability to reduce their operating costs, reduce their energy consumption, reduce greenhouse gas, reduce maintenance costs, and that carrot has been grabbed at great speed by the authorities, and particularly overseas in the US and the UK, this has been done quite rapidly in recent years. But there have been consequences of dashing forward to grab that carrot, and the whole aspect of the consequences of this is often very bad press for authorities. Sometimes there's actually been legal action initiated by residents against local authorities, additional costs for authorities, and they've had to stop their rollouts, in some cases pull out lights, go and find other luminaires, and then retrofit back in cities. So when I look at this, here is that's where Brisbane City Council is headed, and I don't want that to be the case. Also, the other thing you need to recognise about Brisbane City Council is it's the largest council in Australia. It acts a bit like the gorilla in the local forest of our area of Queensland. Whatever it and the electricity distributor Energex decide on, that is pretty much what's going to get rolled out around our region of Australia. And there's a lot of people that will reside under these lights. So we did get this right. So a bit of background, this trial in Brisbane is for category P lighting. So this fits under Australian standard 1158.3.1. So category P lighting is for just about all of the streets in cities other than the big arterial roads and motorways. So it's all the suburban streets where 99.9% of Brisbane residents live. So if there are going to be resident amenity issues with street lighting in category P areas, this is where people live. This is where the impact is going to happen. So I then looked at the Australian standard 1158.3.1 and tried to understand, well, what is it trying to achieve? What does it say it's trying to achieve with street lighting? And it says that the reason for street lighting in these parts of the cities is really for the benefit of pedestrians. So pedestrians can orient themselves and detect potential hazards. So it's for pedestrians. It also makes reference that this lighting in these areas should try and minimise spill or trespass into private properties and minimise glare. It also says that street lighting in these category P areas is not there for vehicles. It's there for pedestrians. Vehicle drivers need to use your headlights. That's what's going to keep you safe as a driver. So really category P lighting is in a residential area for the benefit of pedestrians. That's what the standards are trying to achieve. I then looked at the documentation that Brisbane City Council and Energex put out for the conducting of this trial. And when I sum it all down, what this really said to me was Council and Energex basically just put out a call to luminaire suppliers and said, show us what you got. That's all it really boiled down to. Show us what you got. There was nothing in this documentation for the trial which addressed things like resident amenity. There was nothing in there which talked about control of light trespass in private property. There was nothing in there that talked about control of upward waste light and light pollution. Nothing in there talking about what colour temperature we should be looking at and control the blue wavelength. And there's also nothing in there about adaptive control systems for dimming lights when the level of illumination is not as important. So it all boiled down to just show us what luminaires you have. But then, when you look at the specifications that Energex and Council put out to the suppliers, there are a few things that worry me. It said the luminaires that you offer up for trial need to be tuned for 20-metre wide road reserves. Now, there's a lot of streets in the older parts of Brisbane which are way less than 20 metres, some down to 10 metres. And in fact, all new subdivisions can be as small as 14-metre wide road reserves. So straight away, you're setting yourself up for a problem of light trespass into nearby properties. If the only lights you're going to try are designed for 20-metre road widths. So that was a problem. It also said whatever you offer up for trial needs to be able to be installed on brackets or spigots with 5-degree up tilt. So part of that's this legacy infrastructure problem. But it also means here we are setting ourselves up for a potential upward waste light and light pollution problem before we even commence the trial. It also said that whatever you offer us, the trial should weigh 4.9 kilos or less. They later upped that to 5 kilos. So weight was an issue. I can understand that. They don't want their poles falling over at minute fatigue, but that's what they specified. I also if you provide luminaires for trial, provide us with luminous intensity tables so that we can see how these lights perform. So it took some months as part of the astronomy group to get council and NHS to come to a public consultation. My understanding is they did a launch presentation in late 2016, and then after that there's been no public consultation on this trial. It took me months, but I did manage to get, I thought I'd get one representative from council. We ended up with 6 from council and NGEX who came to and one of the questions I asked them to come and present on was, can you tell us what are your criteria you're going to use to assess which luminaires are going to win in this trial? Which ones are going to be the best performers that you want to then roll out across Brisbane? And when they came to the public consultation meeting, they didn't answer the question, couldn't answer the question. I then put that in writing back to council, asking what their criteria were, never got an answer. So I don't know how they're going to pick between the trial luminaires and decide which ones to roll out. So ultimately, the manufacturers offered up 28 luminaires for council to choose from, to trial, and council chose 10. And I sat across the table from the lead engineer of Energex at one point and asked, how were these 10 selected? And the answer was on weight. So it was out of the 28 luminaires, 5 minutes left. Ready? Out of the 28, they just chose 10 based on weight. So I then, I think I'm the only person in Brisbane who's been out to all 17 trials where these 100 luminaires of 10 make and model were put up for trial. And I looked at 6 different criteria for how these lights perform. These are criteria that weren't really covered with things like the Australian standards. Now, you can get the whole results of what I learnt by going onto YouTube and Googling for Brisbane LED street lights. There's a whole bunch of videos on there where I assess some of the streets and talk more broadly about LED street lights. So you can get all the real detail there. The Australian standard says that for category P streets, the lights just need to deliver high colour rendering, but not be more than 4,000 Kelvin. However, only one of the 10 luminaires with 3,000 K, one was 4,500 K, one was 6,000 K, so even these are above the standard. Why were they even trial? For me, they just met the 5 kilo weight limit, so they couldn't try. And there's no end of research looking at colour. One that looks at 15 colour chips and concluded that there's 90 to 95% correct colour rendering at 3,000 Kelvin with 3,000 Kelvin LED, and it's hardly different to what you will achieve with 4,000 Kelvin. So you don't really need to go to 4,000 Kelvin. I looked at brightness on the 17 streets. I didn't have any way to measure brightness. All I could really do was do a sort of a gut feel assessment of brightness. And my ultimate conclusion is 9 out of the 10 luminaires were very bright, some extremely bright. Now, part of that could be due to lack of shielding, some of it could be glare, but squinting, at times even shielding my eyes. So there really was a problem with brightness. A real killer in this trial, lights were installed. Now, even when the luminaires had a hinge in them to allow them to be installed horizontal, 90% of the trial lights were not installed horizontal. So when you read the data sheets for all these lights, that tells you how they will perform if the light's installed horizontal. But if they're not installed horizontally, how are you going to measure the performance of these lights? So with these lights installed at all sorts of higgledy-piggledy angles in the trial streets, I can't see how they're going to make a decision on which actually performs best. And as a result of this, up-tilted light, you'll have a lot of upward light and light pollution, and it also contributes to the glare zone, which is going to impact pedestrians. So in the design, there were 5 places where they were going to measure illumination levels of these lights along the street, across the property boundary and the property boundary behind. But there was nowhere that they were going to measure actually the light trespassing into and onto private properties. So how are they going to know at the end of this which of these luminaires actually contribute well? And this is the problem with light distribution. They just don't know where the light's going to fall. And even in instances where residents here complain to council that their children were having trouble sleeping after the trial light went up, council went out, had a look, and then told the householder, sorry, we can't put any shielding up because that will affect. And then the killer at the end of this was the trial documentation said at the end of the trial, all luminaires, regardless of how they perform, will remain in place until they ultimately fail in 10 or 15 years' time. So these poor people, we only have these things outside their house for the next 10 or 15 years. So it's just total disregard for resident amenity. Glare, same problem. The issue of pedestrian safety is a real problem with these lights. I had to look at the ground, shield my eyes. You couldn't see into the shadows well. And 6 of the 10 lights here are category 4, which cast, even if they're installed horizontally, cast 8% of their light above the horizon. There was 4 that were type 6, which are full cut-off. Even those still put a lot of light into the glare zone between about 70 and 90 degrees, which is bad for pedestrians. So I think they're poorly chosen. So we covered that. And then there was no implementation of adaptive control or dimming in this trial. Now, it would have been a good opportunity to see if they could still meet the needs of residents and save energy, but they didn't do it. So ultimately, I thought the trial was poorly designed and conducted. They should have lifted the importance of resident amenity in this trial. I think it was largely ignored. There was no active searching for well-designed luminaires. So the technical data sheets, the illumination tables that they provide with the luminaires, those 28 luminaires they're offered, I just don't see that they use those to try and find luminaires which are going to address problems of glare or light trespass. So, there's no effort to go out and find and trial different colour temperatures. So does 3,000K work, does 2,700 work for residents? There were no LEDs trialled which have shielding of the arrays. There's no spill control, and there is no luminaires chosen that would accommodate different road reserve widths. All of that should have been in place from the start. As I said before, I don't believe they use the technical data sheets. Manufacturers can provide all that information. You can sit down and do a desk study before you even put anything up a pole and decide which of these luminaires is most likely to work for a 14-metre wide street with narrow housing setbacks. Out of all this, I failed 9 out of the 10 luminaires that were trialled on every criteria. There was only one because it was 3,000K. Seriously. So I encourage you to Google up Brisbane LED street lights and see what I've had to say in detail. So that's the end of all I have to say.
idea from Brisbane County.
They were invited.
Now, I have to leave quite quickly. My colleague, Ken Wishwood, if you could wave your hand. If you have any other questions and I'm not here, please ask Ken. He's been actively involved in this as well.
Questions for Peter?
Curious about the impact on the drivers with that light.
Yes, I know. Some of the street lights I thought were terribly glary. So discomfort glare, maybe even you'd call it disability glare, yes. Particularly with hilly Brisbane as well, because sometimes you're looking up into these things. It's a problem.
Good choice of word, impact.
Yeah.
Just a comment, but if you want to stir the council up, there's a little bit of subtext in one of the tables of the peak intensity of the light is as installed position.
Mm-hmm.
So that 720 candela that they set as the maximum peak intensity is as in the installed position. So their upcast of 5 degrees means that their lighting does not comply freely.
Sure, that's the case. Yeah.
So very interesting bit. I just wondered if there is any resident that decide to take mentors on the ends and
I'm unaware of any air rifles and paintballs. But even when people went through the formal channels, like these poor people that had that light outside, it was just dismissed. So yes, shotguns at 10 metres might be the only option. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to know how you sort of calibrated your photographs. Mainly because when I look, we have some of those where the light's on windows. I'd probably say there's a luminous level of light on those windows. The AS4282 says 130 watts.
Yeah, look, as an amateur with a camera on a tripod, calibration is an issue. I'm trying to get some photos to express a story. It could be done much more scientifically and professionally, I recognise.
Yeah, that is something that's really
Yeah, I am aware.
Thank you very much, Peter. I think we'll move on to the next one. So the next speaker is Mike Chapman. Yeah. Sorry, the program changed because Sanjay, of course, gave his talk during the first session. Are you okay, Mike?
Yeah.
So Mike